Hello, welcome to another battle report. This is a 2,500 point match of Warhammer Fantasy between my Empire army and Anthony from the TheSustainableCenter's Bretonnians. We rolled up the battle for the path scenario, took turns placing the terrain, as you can see. The centerpiece of the table is Anthony's new wizard tower, which actually ended up playing, inadvertently, a pretty big role in the game. Here you can see from the other side of the table. On Anthony's left flank is the Errantry Knights with the Banner of Errantry, so that they are strength 6 on the charge, but have a penalty to their leadership when testing not to charge. He's got 2 Trebuchets, a unit of Mounted Yeomen, a unit of Realm Knights with the 1-up rerollable character block in the front. His Lord has the Heartwood Lance, rerolling failed wounds and heroic killing blow. And in the second rank is the Prophetess, level 4, Lore of Beasts, Crown of Command with a Dispel Scroll. On the right side, he has his Men-at-Arms block with a Damsel, level 2, Lore of Beasts. She has the Prayer Icon, 3 Peg Knights, and then another unit of Realm Knights. On my left flank, you can see I deployed the Pistoliers on top of the hill. Behind them is the Steam Tank, 3 Demigryph Knights with a Musician, my Swordsman block with my level 4 Wizard, Lore of Death, Dispel Scroll, 5-up Ward Save, and then the big block of Greatswords, 38 Greatswords. The BSB has a 3-up, 4-up Ward Save with the Iron Curse icon. The Witch Hunter has just the Brace of Pistols, and then my Arch Lector has a 4-up Armor Save, 4-up Ward Save. Behind them is the Celestial Hurricanum. I have a unit of 11 Inner Circle Knights with a Warrior Priest with a 1-up Armor Save and the Crown of Command, and 10 Skirmishing Archers. Anthony rolled the following spells for his level 4, Savage Beast, Curse of Onrahir, Amber Spear, and Weissen's Wild Form. On his level 2, he took Weissen's Wild Form and took the Transformation of Kadan. My level 4 had the Caress, Doom and Darkness, Soul Blight, and the Purple Sun. Post-Vanguard moves, you can see the Pegasus Knights flew over in front of the Men-at-Arms, Mounted Yeomen scooted up, and then the Pistoliers went out down the hill. Here you can see, beginning of Empire turn 1, remember that Bretonnia will pray to receive the blessing of the lady, so in these matches I will almost always be going first. I can't imagine there's any situation where Anthony would turn down those ward saves. The Steam Tank randomly moves down the hill. However, I haven't stuck to the base yet, so the Chariot base is where the tank is actually located. The Demigryphs move forward. The Swordsmen and the Greatswords move forward. I'm already seeing a flaw with this with my deployment. I thought I had enough room when taking into account the angles to get all of these units through this channel. Really should have pushed things out further to the right. I was worried about spreading myself too thin, but as you can see, I'm already getting hung up on terrain. Yeah, you can see it's even more obvious that the Greatswords are going to have a tough time committing to either side of that tower. The Knights, the Knights move up behind the Archers. The Archers just march 8 inches, and the Knights stay a couple inches behind them. If he's going to charge something, I just want him to have to overrun into me, not get a full charge into me. Give me a turn of magic to prepare, etc. The Pistoliers march up and position themselves out of line of sight of the Men-at-Arms. The Realm Knights can see them, but I don't think Anthony's going to charge them with that. In Magic, I drop a small template from the Celestial Hurricanum. It has the same attribute as the Lore of Heavens, so it does D6 Strength 4 hits. The small template is on target. It does a Strength 6 hit to one Knight, Strength 3 hits to the other 2 Knights, and then a couple Strength 4 hits. It kills one Peg Knight and puts a wound on another. He passes his panic check, and I cast Doom and Darkness on his character block. So, in shooting, I shoot the Pistoliers at the Peg Knights, cause no wounds. I shoot the Archers at the Mounted Yeomen, cause no wounds. So this is what the board looks like at the beginning of Bretonnia turn 1. He charges my Archers with Mounted Yeomen. I flee. He redirects into the flank of the Greatswords. And the Peg Knights fly over everything to land right next to the Hurricanum. The Men-at-Arms advance, the Realm Knights advance, the Errant Knights advance. He reforms with the Realm Knights at the top of the far corner, and takes the test. The Swift Reform fails it, so they're just stuck where they are. Cast Curse of Honor here on my Knights. Okay, I wasn't really planning on committing them just yet because we're such a long charge range, but now it's even more certain that I'm not going to be committing them because dangerous terrain checks will probably kill more of them than anything else. And in the shooting, he misfires with the trebuchet, causing a wound, and it can't shoot next turn. The other one, I think maybe scattered onto the greatswords or something. I forget what he was shooting at, but it didn't cause any wounds. Oh no, the greatswords was in combat, so it doesn't really. So that wasn't it. At the end of combat, the mounted yeomen are all dead. He put a wound on the BSB, I believe, or the Archlector. I can't remember which, but he caused a high number of hits, high number of wounds. I have decent armor saves and decent ward saves. I just couldn't make any. So now I've got early wounds on those characters, and the mounted yeomen are dead. The greatsword sees the opportunity to reform and try to clear that tower, but now they're facing the flank of the swordsmen and the demigryphs, so they're just bottled up. Beginning of Empire turn 2, I charge the Pegasus Knights with the Hurricanum. He holds, and I attempt to charge the Men-at-Arms with the Greatswords. It is impossible to complete the charge with the units in the way, so I fail it. It's a shame because I rolled a 9, would have been in, but there was just no way to maneuver my unit through that space, so they shuffle up 5 inches. The steam tank trundles forward. The demigryphs just push it out and come around into the, facing the flank of the Men-at-Arms unit. In Magic Phase, I cast Soul Blight on the Men-at-Arms just as a deterrence. There's nothing, I don't really see any charges on one of my main units this turn, and this just means that he'll be Strength 2 and unlikely to cause any wounds to my Greatswords, or Strength 3, pardon me, with the Halberd, and unlikely to cause any wounds, and even if he does, I'll get the full 4-up armor save against it. The archers had previously rallied to, but they can't do anything. The Hurricanum in close combat kills the Pegasus Knights just with impact hits. Caused a bunch of wounds. Anthony couldn't make any saves with the Peg Knights this game, and that's that. So post-combat it reforms. The Pistoliers had previously shot the Realm Knight block and caused 1 casualty. I think that Demigryph Knight is kind of pushed off from the others because I was trying to demonstrate that I couldn't get into, couldn't move my greatswords through without touching a bunch of units. I think that's what that was for. So here's what the board looks like at the beginning of Bretonnia turn 2, end of Empire turn 2. Anthony declares a charge on the greatswords with his men-at-arms. Okay, this isn't really that bad. I guess, yeah, the wound had been on the BSB, not on the Archlector. That's what it was. He attempts to charge the Realm Knights block into the corner of the greatswords. This will have him putting all of his attacks on the Archlector, pretty much. This is not good. What's actually kind of interesting about this is I don't believe there's any way for him to complete it. At first it was like, oh, well, you just have to touch, and then if you can't close the door, I'll have to close the door. But he had resolved the charge with the Men-at-Arms first, so now these 2 units are locked. He has to be able to get in and close the door in order to be in combat, and he couldn't, not even catty-cornered on the very edge. So it ends up being a failed charge. That's 2 charges so far, stymied by that Wizard's Tower. Yeah, the Realm Knights in the lower right-hand corner of the screen pass their check to march within 8 inches of the Pistoliers and zoom around. The Errant Knights sort of just hold back. I think Anthony might have even backed them up a few inches to make a charge from the Knights of the Blazing Sun even less likely. Otherwise, this is what the board looks like. Yeah, I think this was just to highlight that the Realm Knights had moved up. In shooting, he puts 3 wounds on the Hurricanum with a trebuchet shot. In close combat, he issues a challenge with the Damsel. I accept with the Witch Hunter. The Witch Hunter has initiative. He has 3 attacks. He doesn't have Killing Blow because she's not his primary target, but he rerolls failed wounds against wizards in general. And Strength 4 means only 6-up ward saves, and he punks her pretty bad. And then he kills 1 greatsword with the men-at-arms attacks and loses several, but he's steadfast, and the general's right there on leadership 10, so he holds. I believe he puts 1 wound on the Archlector this turn from attacks directed against him. Beginning of Empire, turn 3, I declare a charge on the flank of the Realm Knight block with both the Demigryphs and the Knights of the Blazing Sun. The Demigryphs are almost guaranteed to get in. The Knights of the Blazing Sun had a very long charge, but made it. They have the Steel Standard. I neglected to mention that in the army composition, but this makes them movement 8 because it allows them to ignore the penalty for barding, so their charge range is a little longer than normal. And when they roll to charge, pursue, or flee, and are rolling Swift Stride, any results of a 1 can be re-rolled. So in this case, I think I had like a 6, a 1, and a 2. Re-rolled the 1 and got something high, and they're in. This is not really a great... this is going to be sticky. I can't kill the Prophetess. As long as the Prophetess is there, he's going to be stubborn on at least Leadership 8. What my hope is that with this many Strength 6 or Strength 5 armor-piercing attacks, we'll just take this unit down to characters only, score some points, and just cause some ruckus. The Knights of the Blazing Sun and the Warrior Priest together are like 400-ish points, I want to say. Maybe 450. And the Demigryphs are only 170 or 180. So I'm just hoping that I can cause some disruption here and clear out some of the rank and file, leaving the characters more vulnerable. The Hurricanum moves so that it's positioned between both of those units, the Greatswords and the Knights, giving the +1 to hit in close combat to both of them. The Archers just move up. I generate 4 steam points on the steam tank and use 3 of them to flank charge the men-at-arms. With Soul Blight, Soul Blight went away this turn. Magic hasn't happened yet. I forget if I got it back up. But 3d3 impact hits plus d6 impact hits for being the Chariot. I'm hoping that I can just cause enough wounds to take him down below, to take him below Steadfast. And sure enough, we cause a ton of impact hits. And then the Strength 2 Breath Weapon, plus the attacks from the Greatsword. Although he does manage to put a wound on the Witch Hunter, he's now thoroughly depleted. And fails his leadership test, fails his break test, flees, and escapes. The Greatswords go as far as they can, but are stopped by the tank. So here's what it looks like with the men-at-arms having fled, and me being kind of stuck up on the steam tank. This close combat broke my heart. I got a double flank charge with my 2 fast movers, hard hitters, caused a ton of wounds. Anthony just saved all of them. He's got a 2-up on Realm Knights versus Strength 6. That's going to a 5-up, followed by a 5-up ward save, and he was just making them left and right. Passes his fear check from the Demigryphs. No surprise there. I mean, leadership down with a reroll. But still very, just very, very frustrating here. He issues a challenge with his Lord. I accept with the unit champion, and they have a tickle fight. Nobody wounds each other. The Demigryphs don't take any wounds from the Strength 3 attacks back, but it's just all of those attacks perfectly, like just, I wouldn't say perfect, I mean, because obviously it's a stubborn unit, and I have to kill it, and with Knights I'm unlikely to kill them all, but I was hoping for a little bit more than 2 wounds. Regardless, win combat, Anthony holds. And here's what the board looks like at the beginning of Bretonnia, turn 3. He declares a charge with the Errant Knights on the flank of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. They're almost guaranteed to get in. He declares a charge on the rear of the Demigryphs with the Realm Knights block. Again, almost guaranteed to get in. This is just bad news. He rallies the men-at-arms. They were out of range of the character bus, but I'm pretty sure at the time they are within whatever the range is to get a leadership bonus from just regular knights. Even so, I think they passed their rally check on peasant leadership, so like they need like a 4 or a 5, and they got it. So yeah, here's just a picture to show that they had rallied. He casts the Savage Beast of Horos on his Bretonnian lord, so he's now got 7 attacks at strength 7. So kiss that unit champion goodbye. My hope is that he doesn't get a bunch of killing blows or just stacks up the overkill really bad. And then he casts Curse of Honor here on the Demigryphs, so even my prolonged grinding unit is really going to be ineffective in this combat. The Trebuchet shoots at the Hurricanum, scatters onto the Greatswords, kills 3 of them. The other one scatters like 2 inches off, so he doesn't get the multiple wounds hit for it being under the hole, but it's still strength 5 anyway, and causes a wound on the chariot. It has 1 wound remaining. The Demigryphs break. The Errant Knights and Realm Knights and characters fail to kill the Warrior Priest. The Knights are stubborn on Leadership 8, and they hold. The Demigryphs Knights are testing on Snake Eyes, I believe, and they break from combat and flee. He pursues with this unit of Realm Knights, catches them, runs them down, and ends up 1 inch away from the men-at-arms. Here's what it looks like. All of those attacks, including a Paladin that made way to attack my Warrior Priest. And Anthony, what has he got? He's got something like 8 Knight attacks, 8 Strength 6 attacks going on that Warrior Priest. And I think he whiffed with 7 of them and then failed to wound with the other one. Same with the Horse Kicks. Just tremendously bad luck. This was a game of units on the charge just really failing to perform. So I heard, you heard what I said earlier. I didn't really have plans to be breaking these units with this charge. I just had hoped to cause a little bit more damage. But I certainly can't argue with this level of resilience again against a flank charge versus strength 6 knights. Post-combat, he reforms the Errant Knights to keep some ranks, but also just maximize the number of attacks he'll get next turn. I reformed the Greatswords, take the leadership test to make it a swift reform, and move up towards the Realm Knight block. The Swordsmen march around. The Steam Tank generates 4 steam points and charges into the flank of the Realm Knights. Remember that the Steam Tank has random movement, so no one can declare charge reactions or anything to it. The Swordsmen had declared a charge on the men-at-arms who had fled. This caused them to bounce through the building and come out directly in front of the Pistoliers, who declared a charge on them. The men-at-arms fled again, and I allowed the Pistoliers to complete that charge and didn't redirect onto the Trebuchet because those guys were worth a lot of points relative to the Trebuchet. And at this point, with all my guys in combat, I'm not really worried about shooting all that much. So we run them down. And here you can see that the Greatswords I can't even fit through after this reform with the way the tank is positioned. I just really did not take this tower properly into account when deploying my forces. I thought I was going to be able to just scoot around it either to the left or right and pick my fights, and that's just not what happened. So here you can see after my movement, cast Soul Blight on the Realm Knights. I'm not really worried about them causing damage. I just want to make it as easy as possible for my Steam Tank to generate a ton of combat res and start grinding them down. With 4 Steam points, I can do 3d3 impact hits, and I can then do a Strength 2 Breath Weapon by lowering them to Toughness 2. That's my hope. I mean, he's just got to roll 1s and then not roll 6s. We'll see. Cast Doom and Darkness on the character block. I believe we had a bit of confusion on how transferring leadership from the characters to other units would go. If I cast it on Doom and Darkness, his Lord goes from Leadership 10 to Leadership 7, and then that broadcast Leadership 7 is worse than what he would normally have. Otherwise, it would have gone on the unit of Realm Knights to increase the odds of me breaking them. Either way, the steam tank just really doesn't bring it out. Not a lot of impact hits, and then like 2 or 3 hits with the breath weapon. Anthony makes his saves and sticks around. In close combat, he kills the warrior priest. Actually, what he had done is not issued any challenges, and then was going to just direct attacks on the warrior priest. And I figured I'd be clever and issue a challenge, and he accepts with his lord, who is strength 7 and 7 attacks. I kind of knew that the warrior priest was going to die. He only had 1 wound left, and I can't roll that many potential saves without rolling a 1. At least this way, I would take those strength 7 attacks off the unit, increasing the likelihood that it would survive, or just not take a ton of wounds. He ended up blowing the warrior priest, I think, 2 times over or whatever. I lose combat. I'm testing on Snake Eyes. Break, run away. He fails to catch with both of the knight units. The knights breaking from combat, I want to say they flee through where they panic the archers, who then run just like that. The beginning of Bretonnia turn 4 sees him charging the fleeing knights and the archers. The knights are pursued off the board. The archers are run down by the character block. In his shooting, he drops a rock on the Hurricanum and kills it, and misfires with the other trebuchet, and just gets the result where it can't shoot this turn. Beginning of Empire turn 5. I declare charge on the Realm Knights unit that are engaged with the steam tank, with the swordsman. This will deny him steadfast. This will add a ton of static combat res to this fight, plus the charge, and it'll definitely break him. And then I'll have an opportunity to pursue, because the tank otherwise can't pursue or do anything. So I was pretty optimistic about this. Did the measurement. I needed to roll a 3 or higher on 2d6. Of course, I roll Snake Eyes, and the knights get another turn of reprieve, because as you remember from earlier, the greatswords can't possibly complete a charge given the placement of the tower right now. So I reform the greatswords, swift reform them. They're like 7 or 8 wide now instead of 10 wide, and they're 1 inch away from that Realm Knight block. The Pistoliers had charged the trebuchet. In Magic, I put both Soul Blight and Doom and Darkness on this unit. The steam tank had generated 4 steam points again. I did 1d3 of grinding, which is distributed like shooting, so it doesn't even generate combat res. And I think that kills 1 knight or whatever. And I'm saving the others for a strength 4 breath weapon that'll be 2d6 hits, wounding on 2s. And with strength 4, at least I'm modifying his armor save. With Doom and Darkness, he's almost certain to break eventually. The Pistoliers kill the Treb, no problem. However, the steam tank again just rolls really lackluster. I think I rolled like 2 or 3 on the breath weapon, and caused like either no wounds or he just made his saves. So that Realm Knight unit is still around. Beginning of Bretonnia turn 5, he reforms both units, and then swift reforms them to move up. The Errant Knights are threatening the flank of the Greatswords, and the Realm Knights are positioned for a rear charge or a flank charge on the Swordsman. I cast Weisson's Wild Form on the character block, so now they're even more dangerous than normal. And Weisson's has a bit of a multiplicative effect on cavalry, because it's not just the knights. The knights are typically strength 5 or strength 6 on the charge, and they're going to be wounded things really easily anyway. But now the horses are a serious threat at strength 4 now. In close combat, he causes no wounds to the steam tank. I'm unbreakable, and he reforms now so that the swordsmen don't have an opportunity to get in on their flank. And the greatswords can't get in on their flank. The swordsmen are still going to be stuck out in a line. It's a pretty good move on his part to just maximize the number of attacks he'll get in response, and minimize my ability to to take care of that. So beginning of Empire turn 6, I reform I charge the greatswords into the knights. I generate 4 steam points on the tank. I reform with the swordsman and make it a swift reform to march up. I still got Purple Sun in my back pocket. I hadn't really had a good opportunity to use it in the game without threatening my own units. And now it's just going to be, well, the game's pretty much over. At this point, I think we're within 100 points of each other. Just going to throw it all, see if I can knock out some of those characters and score some points. Pistoliers charge the remaining trebuchet. In Magic, I roll high enough, I get Purple Sun off, I shoot it out towards his character block. The way it is, if I roll anything but a misfire or a 2 on the artillery die, it's going to hit most of the block and all the characters. But of course, I misfire, it scatters 4 inches off of the wizard. I can't be too ungrateful, because if you're going to misfire, at least it didn't go onto my guys and kill a ton of swordsmen or kill my wizard. That's also a possibility. But this is pretty frustrating. Pistoliers kill the trebuchet, no problem. They overrun off the board, but again, no big deal. And the great swords and steam tank together kill almost all of those realm knights. All that's left are the banner and the champion. He breaks, but rolls boxcars for his flea roll. Now I've got 2 choices. One is that I can reform with the great swords and just be ready to accept the charge from the errant knights. He won't be able to kill my block to the last man, but he'll probably be able to pick off one of my characters, and that'll be game. I just decide to go for big money, no whammies, and roll the dice, try and catch him. I get an 11. It's almost a 12, but it's not. So he gets away with the champion. I'm 1 inch behind him, and I'm out of line of sight from the errant knights, so he can't even charge me. That means his only option really is the swordsman. So here's what the board looks like at the beginning of Bretonnia turn 6. We picked up the magical vortex for whatever reason. I don't really remember why, but the magical vortex is still there. Doom and Darkness, Anthony, I don't think he dispelled it. I think it's still in effect on the Realm Knight. The Realm Knight fails to rally, but only rolls like a 2 or 3 on his flea roll, so he's still on the board. He's just sitting by that huge pile of dead models. The magical vortex, Anthony tries to dispel it, does not roll high enough. It then scatters through his unit, pops out the other side, hits like 7 knights and the prophetess. The prophetess makes her look out, sir, and all the knights but like 2 pass their initiative check. I mean, like the one time I have good luck with something like that, he just sort of shrugs it off, no harm done. However, in close combat, he does not issue any challenges, so I challenge with the unit champion. I believe this pulls one of the paladins off the unit. The lord kills a couple peasants, or kills a couple swordsmen, I should say. Between the BSB and all the knights directing their attacks at the wizard lord, they only manage to sneak 1 wound through his ward save, and then they only kill a handful of swordsmen. I am steadfast on leadership 8, and I get it. So we hold. The errant knights had failed their charge to get in. Anthony rolled 3 1s. Pretty much, it wasn't a sure thing by any means. He needed a decent roll, and 3 1s was not it. So with only 1 knight block on my infantry, and with a unit champion there to challenge out one of his close combat characters, it would have taken some really tremendous rolls to break that unit, and he didn't get them. So at the end of the game, here's one last parting shot of the great swords chasing the unit, chasing the realm champion. And here's a parting shot of the character block of realm knights engaged in combat with the swordsman. So with the final disposition of the board was like so. Ignore the dead trebuchet and the dead pistolier over there on the side. Uh, as you can see, I mean, Anthony really didn't pick up very many of his main units. The men-at-arms are gone, the 2 trebs, and the fast movers, but all 3 of those main knight blocks are still around, haven't fought off the table or haven't been killed. I'd lost my knights, my demigriffs, my hurricanum, and those archers. We're very close. We total it up. Anthony's got a 90-something point lead, but not enough for a minor victory. Kind of remarkable when you think about it, but this really went to show, for me especially, how much I had underestimated how much of an impact that piece of terrain, that tower in the center, would have. I really should have pushed my guys out further to one side and committed one way or the other, or had just made a decision when it was clear early on I wouldn't be able to make it in to occupy the building with one of my, with the greatswords. Really, they were the guys to do it, to bounce out the other side. But, it is what it is. It was a really fun game. It was good to, this sounds kind of silly, but it was nice to have these 2 lists not have a crushing, overwhelming victory for one over the other, because, I mean, it's hard to really compare the efficiency or effectiveness of various units when you have really streaky or wild events happening. That said, could have really gone either way with turn 6. If Anthony had managed to put a couple more wounds on that Wizard Lord and killed him, it would have been a minor victory for Bretonnia. If I had caught those fleeing Realm Knights, it would have been a minor victory for Empire. Real nail-biter right up until the end. I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.